Elvis, the HMS Queen Mary, and Uncle Buck are all on this day. Welcome back to On This Day. Today's date is August 16th, 2022. It is the 228th day of the year. We got 137 days left. It is the 33rd Tuesday in the 34th week and the 57th day of summer. You got 37 days left until fall. Today is National Airborne Day. National Airborne Day on August 16th honors the military's airborne divisions of the armed forces. On August 16th, 1940, marks the date of the first official Army parachute jump at Fort Benning, Georgia. The successful jump that day validated the innovative concept of inserting U.S. ground combat forces behind battle lines by parachute. The Sky Soldier represents some of the most prestigious and expertly trained forces in the United States Army. I don't know about that. I was a leg infantry, so yeah. A lot of us still go to airborne school. Airborne school is really just a component most of the time of some of the better military units. Green Beret, Ranger, things like that. Even SEALs go to airborne school. But then they do have basic infantry units that are airborne, like the 82nd Airborne, the 101st Airborne, and the 173rd, which my son was in. All right, let's see what else August 16th has given us. 1777, the American Revolutionary War. The Americans, led by General John Stark, rout British and Brunswick troops under Frederick Baum at the Battle of Bennington in New York. 1841, U.S. President John Tyler vetoes a bill that called for the reestablishment of the Second Bank of the United States. Enraged Whig Party members riot outside the White House in the most violent demonstration on White House grounds in U.S. history. 1913, the Royal Navy battlecruiser HMS Queen Mary is completed. The HMS Queen Mary was the last battlecruiser built by the Royal Navy before World War I. The sole member of her class, Queen Mary shared many features with the Lion-class battlecruiser. This was a pretty big ship for the time, and their obsession with naming ships Queen Mary is just obvious here. They had the RMS Queen Mary, which I believe is still in Long Beach Harbor, and it's now a hotel. I went there many years ago. It's in Southern California, but they'd have a haunted house there during October back in the day. But yeah, they seem to like to name things Queen Mary because they also had the Queen Mary 2. Now, the HMS Queen Mary, it took them almost 3 years to build this thing, and at the time, like I'd said, it was a pretty big ship. It had a lot of armament. Like most of the British ships at the time, they spent most of their time in the North Sea. The Queen Mary attempted to intercept a German force that had been bombarding the North Sea coast of England in December of 1914, but they never caught up with them. The ship was refitted in early 1915 and missed the Battle of Dogger Bay. And then came the Battle of Jutland in mid-1916. This was the largest fleet action of the war. Sadly, the HMS Queen Mary took 2 hits from the German battlecruiser Deflinger, and the magazine exploded. Well, the magazine is where they keep all their explosives and things like that, and it just blew the ship apart, and it sank. In 1991, the wreck was discovered in pieces, some of which are upside down on the floor of the North Sea. And in 1986, under the Protection of Military Remains Act, it became a protective place as it has the grave of over 1,200 officers and sailors. Yeah, normally when you look at anything to do with World War I, World War II, or even if they have naval combat today, when you hear the magazine blew up, there's usually very few survivors. 1916, the Migratory Bird Treaty between Canada and the United States is signed. This is basically a law that said we won't send any more pigeons to Canada and they don't send us any more loonies. Just kidding. This is basically a treaty that says there's restrictions on killing, capturing, selling, trading, and transporting migratory birds that go from Canada to Mexico. Mexico's involved in this too. You can hunt those birds, but you have to have prior authorization from the Department of the Interior of the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Services. Most of the time, it's in the form of a hunting license. 1927, the Dole Air Race begins from Oakland, California to Honolulu, Hawaii, during which 6 out of 8 participating planes crash and disappear, never to be seen or heard from again. What was the thinking behind this one? Planes really hadn't been around that long. I mean, Orville and Wilbur had done their first flight just 24 years earlier. We hadn't really mastered the whole flight thing. Some may argue that we haven't even mastered it to this date. And these people are going to fly halfway across the largest body of water on the planet before satellites, radar. I mean, if you stormed the beach in Normandy, you had better odds of making it than these people did. 1964, the Vietnam War. A coup d'etat replaces the South Vietnamese president with a South Vietnamese general. A new constitution is established with the aid of the U.S. Embassy. 1989, a solar particle event affects computers at the Toronto Stock Exchange, forcing a halt in trading. 2020, the August complex fire in California burns more than 1 million acres of land. That was a bad one. Movies released on August 16th, 1989, Uncle Buck, one of John Candy's greatest movies. It was written and directed by one of the greatest directors and writers of all time, John Hughes. They had so many good lines in this movie, but it had John Candy, Macaulay Culkin, Jean Louisa Kelly, who played Tia Russell, who was the teenager, and Gabby Hoffman, which is not the Vietnam War activist. And it had Laurie Metcalf, who played the weird next-door neighbor. Such a good movie. If you've never seen this movie, definitely see it. It was when Macaulay Culkin was cute. Now he looks like a 42-year-old man going through puberty. Born on August 16th, 1958, Madonna, pop icon and diva who was one of the most prominent faces of music during the 1980s and pretty much the 90s. She sold over 300 million albums across the world. Her best-known songs were Like a Virgin, Papa Don't Preach, and 4 Minutes. I've never even heard of 4 Minutes, and I used to watch it. I don't even know why that's on here. I gotta look it up now. Okay, I looked it up. That was a song she did with Justin Timberlake, and it's one of these songs that came out around the early 2000s. This one was released in 2008, but there was a whole bunch of songs like this where the music and the beat was so high you really couldn't even hear the singing. Beyonce did quite a few of those too. Now, besides being a history and movie buff, I really like the history of music. And even if it's not a genre I'm into, I know a lot of things about music, probably more than most people. I was the guy everyone called before Google to ask what song was this or something like that. Nobody calls me about that anymore. But yeah, I'd never heard of this song. And trust me, I wasn't in a coma in 2008. I listened to it about 4 times. The song sucks. I don't know how this is one of her best songs. Madonna grew up in an Italian-American household and was a straight-A student as well as a cheerleader in high school. After earning a degree from the University of Michigan School of Music, Theater, and Dance, she moved to New York City to pursue dance. If you're not a fan, you probably don't know, but her first name is Madonna. Madonna Louise Ciccone. Died on August 16, 1977. Elvis. Known as the king of rock and roll, he rose to prominence in the late 1950s. I don't need to tell you people this, but I'm going to. Becoming a legendary presence in cultural history and the best-selling solo artist in the history of pop music. He released such #1 singles as Hound Dog, Jailhouse Rock, Stuck on You. One of my favorite songs he ever did was In the Ghetto. Very sad, very slow song, but it's great. Suspicious Minds was great. Can't Help Falling in Love. Phenomenal. Now, most of his music he didn't write. Someone else wrote it for him. He was just the singer and performer. But still, quite a talented man. I mean, the guy's been dead since 1977, and everyone on the planet knows his frickin' name. He had an identical twin brother, Jesse Garon Presley, who was delivered stillborn shortly before Elvis's birth. He was a loner as a child and brought a guitar to school with him every single day. He appeared in over 30 movies with his big screen debut in the 1956 film Love Me Tender, named after one of his songs. He married Priscilla Presley on May 1st, 1961, and they divorced on October 9th, 1973. His daughter Lisa Marie Presley also became a singer. I watched a thing with Paul McCartney talking about the time that the Beatles went over to Elvis's house to meet him and stuff like that. He said they just watched TV with him most of the day. That's all he did. He sat there with a bass guitar on the couch, kind of strumming it and watching TV. And that was pretty much their whole day with Elvis Presley. In later years, Elvis's health deteriorated. He'd gained a lot of weight, he had liver damage, glaucoma, hypertension, and enlarged colon, each magnified by alcohol and drug abuse. Elvis Presley died of a heart attack while using the restroom. He had been sitting on the can in Memphis, Tennessee, had a heart attack, and fell off the toilet and froze in that position. Sad ending to a very talented man. Alright, that's today's video. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Hope you got some information out of it. Now go out, have a productive day, and be nice to each other.